We're going to be moving on to a bunch of OSP videos. This is going to be Hera Crashes Zeus Wedding, Ursa Major, and I'm going to say this wrong, Shippeitaro. I have no idea what this last one is. I know this is Constellation, but I don't know the story behind it. And I know that Zeus had previous wives and they died in some natural, some unnatural way. So I don't entirely know what's going to happen here, which is going to be fun. So we're going to jump right in. You guys know the deal. There's links below. Hit them up and let's get started.
Maybe we just don't get what Zeus and Hera have got going on. I mean, every relationship is complicated, right?
Broken
and
shit.
Sure, centuries of mythology and fighting and trickery and murder don't exactly paint a flattering picture, but maybe we're the assholes here. Maybe we just can't judge a 2,000-year-old highly symbolic dynamic between the all-powerful Lord of the Skies and Guardian of Hospitality and the goddess.
He was the Guardian of Hospitality? Oh, yeah, because he did Judgment. Yeah, the guy who frequently cheated on his wife and pissed her off because of it was the guy in charge of morality and judgment and hospitality. Yeah, I forgot about that irony.
Women and family by the same metric we'd use to deem a bestie's new boyfriend a serious red flag. Zeus and Hera are fascinating characters, but they're also gods, and that means their
Really
actions and
fucked up
relationships have
characters.
meaning beyond the surface level.
Oh.
Hera punishing Zeus's lovers/victims for Zeus's infidelity is, of course, a victim-blaming dick move, but Hera is more than a garden-variety woman scorned. She's the goddess of marriage and family. Of course she punishes people who break their vows, no matter the context. And why doesn't she punish Zeus? Well, in lore it's because Zeus is more powerful than her, but the practical reason is because Zeus is not a person. Zeus is a story and a god. Hera's vengeance on infidelity was a social pressure on the people of ancient Greece. Stay faithful to your spouses and respect the bonds of marriage, or Hera would strike you down for defying her domain. Be a good host and keep your
Because it's not actually about the story, it's about the impact of the story.
guests safe, because violating the laws of hospitality would bring down Zeus's wrath on your head. When we retell myths, it's easy to focus on the gods as characters, because they are. But it's easy to forget that they were also more than that. We can get hung up on the canon of the mythology not holding together, but that means we're approaching the mythology with the wrong set of expectations. We read a novel or watch a movie expecting the story to hold together because that's the point of those stories. But the point of the mythology was not to tell a set of stories that was internally consistent, it was to establish who the gods were and what they meant to the people of ancient.
Not just the people, but also to justify the laws they were using, because the laws were based around the mythology. Yeah, that makes a little more sense. And then since other people would have their own interpretations in different locations of the gods, which would also be why there's different stories, because they needed different stories to justify the choices they made, or they made choices based on different interpretations of the stories they were telling.
Greece. So we can judge Zeus and Hera's wacky red flag bonanza all we want, and we should because it's hilarious,
Yeah.
but we shouldn't forget that those stories existed for a reason. In fact, today we're going to be talking about a story that both ties directly into a real historical celebration and paints Zeus and Hera's relationship as more mutually affectionate than average. Don't get too excited, it's still a pretty low bar. Now this
I didn't realize it was affectionate at all, so that's actually surprising.
story comes to us from Pausanias' descriptions of Greece, and the story begins, like so many do, with Hera pissed off at Zeus.
Yeah.
The actual reason is unspecified.
I'm going to Mother's. Babe, she's my mother too. Yeah, family.
Feel free to spin a wheel on that one, but this time she's more than just cranky. She seems actually willing to break things off. She dips out of Olympus and crashes on the island of Evia to sulk, and nothing Zeus
And I'm taking Ares. Oh, that's really nice of you. Thanks, Easy. Because the Greeks didn't like Ares, even though the Romans did.
says can change her mind. Faced once again with the terrifying specter of the consequences of his own actions, Zeus seeks
Wait, he actually is faced with the consequence of his actions? What if she never comes back? Yeah, it'll be really hard for you to start putting yourself out there again. Okay, well played. That one works.
help from King Catharon, a mountain god with a startling amount of experience in romantic shenanigans.
Really?
One can only assume he's seen his share of lovesick young people looking for picturesque environments to wax poetic in. Catharon suggests that Zeus can win Hera back with a wacky
Let's assess. Things Hera hates. You, currently. Your girlfriends. Almost all of your kids. Your dad. Trojans. Teresa's that one time. Teresa? I don't actually know how to say that.
hijink by playing to her jealous nature, and proposes a scheme where they spread rumors of Zeus's upcoming marriage to Platea, daughter of Aesopus and granddaughter of Catharon. For the record, bonus fun fact, all of these
Why would he throw his... He must really hate his own granddaughter. Wow.
people share names with major local geographical features in Boeotia. Catharon is a mountain range, Aesopus is a river, and Platea is the name of the whole city. So this is most likely a situation where all parties involved are gods, nymphs, and other anthropomorphic personifications of the kingdom and its natural environs. Anyway, Catharon suggests
And it also tells you exactly where the story originated from because it used local names. Isn't this, a bit much? You want to get her attention, yeah? Also, the idea that she would actually put Zeus being upset about being with someone. Sure.
They really sell the bit with a celebration parade where Zeus can show off his new bride. True to form, when Hera hears about Zeus...
And she has the ice cream cup. He's gonna wish Dad ate him too. God.
Gallivanting around with some brand new squeeze, she gets in a right twist about it and flies up to Boeotia in a furious rage, finding Zeus heading a lavish bridal procession with someone dolled up in a beautiful wedding dress. Hera storms the procession in all her glory and rips the dress away, finding nothing underneath but a wooden statue. Hera is shocked to learn that, at least in this specific case, Zeus genuinely only had eyes for her, and in Boeotia...
Damn. I know I've had my share of flings, but you will always be my queen. I've never heard of this story. Like, I've heard of a bunch of the other. This is the first time I've heard of this altogether.
They say that the heart of the queen grew 3 sizes that day. Zeus and Hera reconcile at a reunion so beautiful it was commemorated in the Daedala festival for centuries, where wooden statues were carved from sacred oaks and carried through marriage ceremonies up the peak of Mount Kithaeron, where a huge offering...
I'm going to be completely honest. If my marriage ceremony included carrying a wooden idol or a wooden statue up a mountain, I think we would still be dating at this point.
To Hera and Zeus was prepared and burned to celebrate the one time their relationship actually kind of made sense. So remember, folks, if you and your partner are having a tough time, they're gonna absolutely love it if you replace them with a doll. You had plenty more.
God damn it. It makes sense. That's exactly what happened, but I should better leave a like on that. I'm wondering what my wife would say if I just made a small little mini doll version of her and put it on the shelf and said nothing about it. And actually knowing my wife, she would immediately find it cute and then decorate it in the weirdest way possible.
If you live in the northern hemisphere, one of the first constellations you probably learned about was Ursa Major, the Great Bear, or more
Ursa Bear. Yeah, that would do it. Gonna be completely honest, I know a lot about random bits of mythology and a lot about random bits of astronomy. This is not one. So I'm going into this more blind than usual. Unless I happen to know a bunch about it, but never actually put 2 and 2 together, in which case, oh, that'd be fun. Also, Pilo, just a reminder, drop a reminder of the next episode of Project Morningstar, and that there is an original Demon Slayer abridged animation out there. Oh, I think I've seen a few people make those lately. Oh.
Specifically, you probably learned about the asterism, the Big Dipper, which is about 50% of the Great Bear. It's big, recognizable, and actually visible a lot more than most constellations, for one simple reason. This constellation is circumpolar, which means it's close enough to the North Star Polaris that if you're at a high enough latitude, it never actually sets below the horizon. It just spins under the pole star. So rather than only being visible at certain times of year when the sun is in opposition to it, it's technically visible basically year-round. And you have to go pretty far south before the constellation ever completely...
Athens, latitude 38 degrees north. All stars within 38 degrees of Polaris are circumpolar.
Sets. At most latitudes, you'll still be able to see the top part of the Great Bear, and from the perspective of Greece, only the Great Bear's paws are ever obscured below the horizon. The main body is always visible. And fun fact, the original purpose of the word Arctic was to define the area of the planet where an observer would never see any part of the Great Bear set. Arctic is...
So it's always a bear, so it's always cold. Latitude 66 degrees. All stars within 66 Polaris are circumpolar. For stars, declination is the equivalent of latitude, the polars at 90%, and the celestial equator at 0. Thus, this means stars with a declination are... I'm not even going to touch on this. Those are a lot of things to say. High is easier to see, low is harder.
Is derived from the Greek Arctikos, literally meaning of the bears.
Oh.
It's a very convenient coincidence
Arctic
that the
actually
Arctic
meant
is also
bear.
the only natural habitat of polar bears, which aren't found in the Antarctic. It's just funny how these things work out. Now, Ursa Major has a lot of myths
Antarctic
attached
polar
to it,
bears?
and like all constellation myths, they're not particularly consistent. The only through line of a typical constellation myth is that eventually the constellation gets made, because that's really the only part of the story that demonstrably has to happen. But in the case of Ursa Major, there's one other consistent thread in the Greek myths of its
Wait, there's actually
creation,
consistent?
It isn't a particularly happy affair for any...
See, this is actually fascinating because Red has pointed out in a lot of her god videos how there's a lot of competing mythologies with different ideas of the gods changing as they move between cultures and then drastically changing or refining or even splitting up into multiple personalities. Pan, for example, Hermes, and, well, older Pan. But if there's a consistent narrative to the mythology of the bear, that means there's an initial defining point, not just competing mythologies.
anyone involved. So today let's tell a few versions of the tale of the nymph Callisto and how she got screwed over in every possible way. Now this story is retold in Ovid's Metamorphoses, Hyginus's Astronomica, and a few other places, and you know it's going to be bad when Ovid's version isn't notably meaner than the rest. Our story begins with Callisto, daughter of King Lycaon of the Halloween Werewolf video, and follower of Artemis. Like all of
I actually haven't seen the Halloween Werewolf video. I think I was going to do that for maybe Halloween this year, so a couple weeks from now.
Artemis's devotees, Callisto likes nothing more than sprinting through the woods wild and free and hunting her little heart out on all the beasts of the wood. But unfortunately for Callisto, she's a human being in ancient Greece and thus catches the attention of Zeus, who's tired of Hera spotting all his earthly escapades and wants to stress test the idea that maybe a thin covering of trees will prevent the goddess queen of...
I believe it was one Sommer who said, if it's stupid and it works, it isn't stupid. Yeah, but it's the works part, though. Considering we just came off Zeus as someone who actually liked Hera, and now we're going to this one. Yeah.
Of marriage and familial responsibility from noticing him cheating on her for the 4th time that month. So
only
Zeus
the 4th.
Steps down to earth while Callisto is relaxing in a wild and ancient grove, and to further avoid suspicion, Zeus takes the form of Artemis. In this form, he seduces Callisto, which, depending on the version, she may or may not have been super into. Regardless of the specifics, the outcome is the same. Callisto becomes pregnant, and when this is discovered, Artemis is pretty peeved that one of her
Eternal maidenhood. It's not a hard concept. It is literally the simplest option. So you're not going to help me raise it? Yeah.
followers didn't maintain the maidenhood that Artemis is so big on and kicks her out of the group. This is where the story starts getting very wibbly depending on who's telling it. In Ovid's version...
Wait, they only kicked her out? Usually Artemis is much more, hey, you die now. Considering this was prefaced by Red saying this is going to get bad, not what I was expecting.
Callisto is exiled from Artemis's followers and gives birth to a son named Arcas. Hera seizes the opportunity to curse Callisto for, the usual reasons, and transforms her into an enormous bear.
Ah, Zeus. Ah! Translated from terrifying bear noises. Yeah.
Callisto, trapped in this form, wanders the mountains, torn
And she's just flicking off Hera.
between worlds and utterly alone, unable to even petition Zeus for help on account of being a bear. Meanwhile, her son Arcas spends the next 15 years doing normal baby stuff, like pretty quickly not being a baby anymore, and one day, while
Did you say I want to be a Minecraft YouTuber? Oh, of course it did.
out hunting, he encounters a bear, a strange bear that looks at him with a very piercing expression and doesn't seem at all inclined to attack him. Even so, a bear is a bear, and Arcas moves to attack it instead. This kicks off Zeus's fratricidal spidey sense, and he finally clocks the situation, and to prevent the tragedy of Arcas accidentally killing his own mother, Zeus thinks fast and raises them into the sky, transforming mother and son into the constellations Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, the nearby...
On the one hand, not killing. On the other hand, is this better? It doesn't seem better.
by Little Bear constellation whose tail contains the North Star Polaris. Spared from inflicting the ultimate tragedy on each other, the two bears spin through the night sky together for all eternity, most likely united in the feeling that there had to be a better solution than this, Zeus.
I give this 0 stars. Oh, God, really? Good one, kiddo. No, it's not. Oh, I don't need that. Oh. And because she's saying the good one, kiddo here, you know she's aware of how bad it is. So she's putting this in knowing how cringe it is. She chose the cringe joke. Now, the question is, did she choose it because it's cringe, or was it a cringy joke and then she realized it was cringy and made the good one, kiddo, after it, and then left it in knowing it was cringe after she already made it? I mean, if it was me, I would definitely make the cringe joke, realize it's cringy, and leave it in because I like hurting people with my own cringiness. But that's me, and I don't actually think Red's nearly that horrible.
But other versions of the story don't quite play out the same way.
Oh, that's a
Hyginus's
nice one.
Astronomica, for instance, enumerates several ways Callisto has been mythically transformed into a bear. In some versions by Artemis herself, in other versions Zeus turned Callisto into a bear to hide her from Hera, and in
I mean, that last one does have precedence.
some stories, Artemis is subsequently the one who unknowingly killed Callisto. In another version, Bear Callisto and her son are captured by Arcadians and brought to King Lycaon to sacrifice to Zeus for trespassing.
Yeah! And they're just looking completely done with it. This is almost as brilliant as my baby stabbing idea. Yeah.
Passing in his temple. Zeus, catching wind of this, zops them into the stars as constellations. In this one, intriguingly, Arcas is transformed into a different constellation.
Oh!
Instead of Ursa Minor, he becomes the constellation Bootis, which most notably contains the red star Arcturus, whose name means guardian of the bear, and is very easily found and identified by following the arc of the tail of Ursa Major to the nearest bright star. In Ovid's...
Wait, that was the tail? Oh, yeah, this is why I don't do constellations. So there's actually variations on it. And based on the names, it might have been the initial one. Huh. I wonder which of these stories is older.
Fasty, it's also explained why the Great Bear never sinks below the horizon. Hera negotiated with
No,
Tethys, one
touchy.
of the ocean titans, to keep them away from her waters to make their starry fate just a little shittier for him. Thanks, Hera. Arcas also has a little more going on in some stories. Pausanias' descriptions of Greece lists several of his accomplishments after Callisto was turned into a bear, most notably becoming the king of Arcadia, which wasn't even called Arcadia until Arcas introduced the locals to agriculture, weaving, and the glorious technology of bread.
Nope, this makes perfect sense. If you're now inventing bread, I fully believe this is the best king they've ever had, and it is a truly horrible thing that he's known as guarding a bear in the sky, depending on one mythology, instead of the most important baker in history, at least for this region.
Land and its people were renamed in Arcas' honor, and on top of all that, he supposedly married a dryad named Erato and had several children who later began several lines of Arcadian kings.
Oh, damn. Also, I don't think I've seen her draw a dryad before. This is way better than Minecraft, because earlier he wanted to be a Minecraft YouTuber. There's a PewDiePie joke in here somewhere.
Kings. Pausanias, a practical guy, can accept a legendary king being birthed by a bear and marrying a wood nymph, but draws the line at people turning into stars, and in his telling, Arcas never becomes a constellation.
Oh.
Even Callisto's starry fate is questioned. No matter the
Wait, what was that about a werewolf? Anyway, the king was for sure a werewolf. Oh, that's probably the previous video that I haven't seen yet, yeah.
No matter the specifics of the story, and even no matter which constellations they get ascribed to, a few unsurprising details remain consistent. The unfortunate nymph Callisto is transformed into a bear, and then to sort of make up for it, is divinely transformed into the constellation the Great Bear.
Also
Her
a
son
bear.
Arcas goes on to do other things, but after his death or ascension remains nearby, either as the bear-like Ursa Minor or the more humanoid Buddhist constellation, accompanying and watching over his mother as she slowly turns around the pole star. While it makes sense that the only part of the story that's 100% consistent is the part where the immutable stars take the arrangement they have in real life,
But only
it's
for
still
the
a bit of a
greater
bummer
bear,
that we don't
too.
have more reliable through lines to trace. Overall, the one thing all the versions agree on is the same thing that everyone always agrees on. It's all Zeus's fault.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. When in doubt, blame Zeus is actually the way to do it. I've never heard of a lot of those, which is weird because I did know a good bit of astronomy. Just Ursa Major and Minor never came up, or how Arcturus and was part of Bootis. These are all things I just didn't know. It's kind of fascinating when someone can bring up a bit of mythology that I thought I had covered pretty well, and I'm just sitting here going like, nope, this is all new to me. It's just fun to discover new things about something you enjoy. So this is really cool already. Speaking about things I have no idea about, I have no idea what Shippeitaro is, or how badly I'm mispronouncing this name. So we're going to jump in and see it. That's the wrong button. That's the right button.
Have you ever had that thought? You know, man, I would thrive so much in crisis. You know, the only problem is the
No.
world is all safe and simple and stuff. But if circumstances just conspired to put me in an action hero situation, I would do great.
Is that an
I
old
bet if I
Conan
was
art?
trekking across
Yeah.
a beautiful, suspiciously New Zealandy landscape with a crew of true companions on a perilous quest, I'd have a
I would be the first person to die, probably without even realizing what happened. I feel like we're really bonding here.
much easier time getting them into our dang weekly board game nights. Archaeology would be so
No.
much more fun if it actually involved dodging traps and
Peer
punching
review
Nazis on
this.
moving tanks. I'd kick ass at that. I hate calling my doctor and my bank because the true test of my bravery would be using kung fu to fight a crew of ne'er-do-wells in an exciting action set piece on top of
I mean, admittedly, this is still probably safer than going to some doctor's offices. Take of that what you will. I swear there's some people whose entire office is like, hey, parking here will probably kill you. There's a funeral parlor next door. They have a discount.
a moving train. Now, of course, that little voice is not to be trusted because it belongs to your inner storyteller, the part of you that once
Yeah.
upon a time played sword fights or dragon slaying or Star Wars on the playground before eventually maturing into game nights, improv comedy, theater, writing, or really any other creative outlet for that beautiful little what-if instinct. It's a vital part of you, but it's not always the best at reading the room or accepting that the real world does not operate on the logic of a story. So it's kind of funny to encounter a fantastical folktale where the protagonist has the exact same struggle.
What?
Today's story is a Japanese tale first documented in English in the late 1800s by Mrs. T.H. James in a children's picture book, and then
Wait. Cats surrounding a dog in a box. I don't know why, but I have the oddest sense of deja vu right now. And I do not know why, because I'm certain I've never seen this image before. Oh, that's just weird.
picture book, and then later featured in Andrew Lang's The Violet Fairy book in 1901, one of several compilations of folktales he collected from around the world. However, unlike in the similar case of Tokoyo and the Sea Monster, the story of Shippeitaro is also documented in Japan, and in fact has several different localized versions, meaning this story was definitely not made up by some proto-weeb in 1800s Europe, which is a relief. You always gotta check these things. Anyway, the story of Shippeitaro begins with a nameless young man leaving his village in search of fame and adventure, this just being the way things were done back in folklore Japan. But he finds himself almost quixotically frustrated at the lack of adventure opportunities. Despite living in a world chock with yokai, he can find no monsters to slay, no damsels to rescue, and overall nothing that would allow him to finally display his true heroic potential. After all,
yokai and a damsel, yeah. If only we all were cursed with such peaceful times. That would be a nice change.
it's hard to be a hero in a world with no easy villains. But his luck changes one day when he reaches the foothills of an extremely scary-looking mountain that practically screams, "Here there be plot hooks," and he starts hiking his way up through dense underbrush and shadowy trees. Unfortunately, the mountain of plot hooks turns out to be a huge pain in the ass, and he fails to find a way out of the forest before nightfall, only managing to locate a large stone shrine, which he takes shelter in for the night.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a plot hook at all.
Midnight, a sudden horrible sound wakes him, and he sees that outside the shrine are a truly staggering number of cats, which is probably a little disheartening if you're on
cats. And they're all just going meow, and they have glowing eyes. Oh god, all the little tails. Grand heroics, damsel in distress. To be fair, this is not actually unrealistic. This is every goddamn cat at 1 a.m. The unrealistic part is they would do it early at midnight, so you can get out of the way. No, it's like, is it 1 o'clock? Yes, okay. Time to just do all the zoomies. This is not even annoying. This is completely something that could happen now.
On the hunt for extremely dramatic adventure. But these folkloric cats are not the cute and cuddly kind. Japanese folklore has a habit of highlighting the sinister and untrustworthy nature of the cat, and this tale is no exception.
Yeah, can you imagine if a cat was designed to fuck around and broke into the stream earlier and I had to put up the temporary sign because they were designed to chew on the power cable with 1,000 watts going through it? Sorry, 1,200 watts. I mean, that would be completely possible. They're adorable, though.
These cats are partying up a storm under the light of the full moon, dancing and caterwauling and overall behaving in a very unnerving manner.
To give some context, caterwauling is specifically the behavior a cat demonstrates when they're horny. That's a mating call. That's literally the, hey, let's have an orgy call for a cat. Also, considering how cats' genetics works, a pregnant female can have multiple fathers for their litter. So, yeah. Cat genetics are weird. I wish I didn't know this because it's just, why? I didn't need to know this. The things you read every now and again and think are so stupid they can't be real and then turn out to be real. Yeah.
As the young man watches, he begins to make out words in the wailing. "Don't tell Shippeitaro. Don't tell him we've been partying it up on this mountain. It'd be just awful if our one weakness was exploited. Don't you do it. Don't nobody do it." Anyway, this goes on for a while until the midnight hour is officially over and the cats all vanish. The young man officially decides that that's a tomorrow problem and goes back to sleep. The next morning, he wakes up quite hungry and a bit worn out, but thanks to the morning light, he spots a footpath he'd previously overlooked that leads him to a small village. But before he can get anything to eat, he's distracted by the sound of an extremely unhappy woman screaming and crying for help. Alarmed, he asks the apparently indifferent townsfolk what the heck is going on, and they sadly inform him that he's arrived on the occasion of an annual sacrifice to the spirit of the mountain.
Excuse me? Oh yeah, this probably looks pretty bad. Oh, they're just randomly sacrificing people.
And they sadly inform him that he's arrived on the occasion of an annual sacrifice to the spirit of the mountain. The unfortunate girl was selected by lot and will be sealed in a cask and placed in the very shrine the young man sheltered in for the spirit of the mountain to come and consume her. This is obviously very troubling for the young man to hear, though it does provide some context for why those cats were so jazzed. But then he remembers something and
I need to find Shippeitaro. I thought it's a nice thought, but petting a dog can only do so much. Oh, I thought his name was... No, it's the name of the dog. That's why it has Taro in the name.
Asks the locals who or what is a Shippeitaro. Confused by the apparent non sequitur in such a grim conversation, they say that Shippeitaro is the name of the dog that belongs to the local lord. The young man jets off in that direction, leaving the townspeople rather baffled, and before long he arrives at the lord's estate and frantically asks if he can borrow his dog. The lord is unsurprisingly rather...
Oh my god, she drew the dog having a blep! Okay, well played, Red. Well played. Specifically, the tongue being out. A lot of dogs and cats do it, and it's adorable. I don't know why, but it is. Excuse me? I have it on good authority that only your dog can save the day. And believe me, I'm not happy either. Yeah.
They're confused and
Cats are supposed to be
suspicious of this
tricksy,
request,
too.
but the young man insists that it's a matter of life and death, and it'll only be for one day. He
They want
promises.
the dog to
Lord
eat, don't
reluctantly
they?
agrees, and the young man takes Shippeitaro back to the village.
saws the
He
tongue
tells
out.
the sacrificial girl's parents to hide her in the closet for the night, and secretly stows Shippeitaro in the sacrificial cask in her place. Then he heads back up the mountain and hides in the shrine until the cask is brought up, and then
Borf. It doesn't even bark, it's borfing. You said it, buddy.
he and Shippeitaro wait for the plot to come and find them. At midnight, under the full moon, the cats reappear, this time accompanied by a huge black cat that is clearly Mondo Supernatural and
Damn.
evidently their leader. The spirit of the mountain saunters up to the cask,
Hello,
pops
my
the lock,
pretty-
and prepares to devour
It has a fork and a knife.
the girl inside, only to be absolutely demolished when Shippeitaro pops out and glomps
Oh my god, they just... The
the
stupid
lock and prepares
bork
to devour
dog.
the girl inside, only to be
And it suddenly goes hardcore on this one. Oh, Shippeitaros are so cute.
absolutely
Apparently
demolished
they're
when
actually
Shippeitaro pops
assholes
out
in
and
person,
glomps
though.
him instead. The young man seizes his chance and springs out, decapitating the demonic cat in one swing of his hitherto useless sword. The rest of the
Damn.
minor cats freak out and scatter with a little encouragement from Shippeitaro.
People are not for eating. Go on, scat. Meow, 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 meow. And also meow. And it's back to being a dork dog.
And the sword, and Shippeitaro and the young man return to the village at sunrise with the good news. The heroic goodest of boys is returned to his master and honored
Goodest
with an
of
annual
boys.
feast in celebration of them not having to do any more blood sacrifices, and the young man is also there. Hey, sometimes heroism is less
He's not even the main character of his own story.
about proving one's might and slaying the dragon, and more about finding the right tool for the right job. And
It's
sometimes
good
the
boy,
right tool
Doggo.
happens to be just the cutest little
Yes.
guy. Oh, yes, you are.
Justice. Oh, man, I love how she draws dogs, man. Red really has a talent for the cute little bork doggos. Oh, seriously, there's been a lot of things in this that I'm absolutely a fan of, and that random part about the cat genetics that I'm okay with forgetting. And I kind of wish I had already, but if I can't forget it, I'm sharing it with everyone else, so you have to suffer as well. You're welcome. But seriously, if you haven't, just go down, hit it up, and just give Red a like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't. I don't know why you wouldn't, but do that anyways. And I'll see you guys in the next one.